G'day everyone, Shane here. So it's the day after the Ultra. I was going to do this last night, but it was a little bit sore, so thought I'd return back to the track today and do it again. So I'm on a section of the track from near Bushranger Bay. Cut through here, and a bit further down it turns into ferns and you go into a nice little wetland. Looks really good. Actually really happy with how it turned out. So I don't know what it's been, probably 5 months worth of training. And I only started these videos 10 weeks ago, and that's when motivation was starting to get a little bit flat. So I thought I'd start these for a bit of accountability. But training started long before that. Quite happy that I've done the training on relatively low Ks, sort of doing, mid 60s, maybe 70 Ks a week. But it's low Ks. A lot of the, obviously there's people that would have been doing 100, 150 Ks a week, training really well, and they're the guys who likely hit or win it. For me though, the goal was to finish it, and really happy with how it panned out. So the first half, which 28 Ks, went pretty smooth and pretty much as expected. Got to the turnaround point at about 3 hours and 20 minutes. Stopped there for about 5 minutes while I refilled on my pack and topped up my water and well as the electrolyte fluids, and just basically took a bit of time out there to get all that restocked, and then carried on again. So, but yeah, that first half went fairly smooth, and it was good because for a lot of that half you're running with others, and especially the first sort of 10-15k, while the group's still trying to sort themselves out, there's a big line of people ahead of you, and you just sort of chug along, and it just helps the time pass a lot quicker when you're just following everyone else and you're not out on your own. Whereas when you're coming back, there were sections there where I'd go through one aid station and I wouldn't see a single person until you popped out of the next aid station, which could be 5 to 8 Ks later. So there's always the orange tape which shows you're going in the right direction. But it's nice if there's other people moving along as well, especially if you've got someone who's running a similar pace to you and you're pacing along with them. Times when you want to stop, you keep moving because they're moving, and then the same for them. They want to stop, but because you're moving, they keep moving along as well. And you just sort of keep doing that until it gets to the point where you basically need to stop. Coming out of the aid station at the halfway mark, you start a fairly decent climb, spread over about 4 kilometers, where you make your way back up Arthur's Seat. So you do Arthur's Seat twice. When you come over it from the reverse side on the first lap, it's a fairly savage but very quick uphill. There's sort of really 2 decent climbs in it, and then you make your way over the crest and start making your way down. Whereas when you're coming from the other side, it's a long drawn out climb. I think the climb itself is only about 400 meters maybe. I don't know if it's a mountain or just a really big hill, one of the two. But when you do it back to back, it sort of takes its toll. But the going up basically starts as soon as you leave the halfway mark. You start on the roads and you make your way off into the bush again and start winding your way up the hill. That really takes its toll on your legs, and there's no break from it. And I'm not one that can just run for kilometers uphill. So you tend to just sort of walk that and hope you make it to the top. So coming back down the hill on the return trip, because it's such a sudden climb and heavy climb on the first loop around, when you go back down you can run it, but because it's so steep, there's a lot of shock going back through your quads and your calves, and I'm not one that can run smoothly down hills, so you get a lot of force coming back up through your legs, and by the time you get to the bottom, which might be, it's a couple of Ks later, you do hit the bottom, quads and calves are just shot. At least mine were anyway. Everyone else might have been fine, but mine was shot. So at that point it's about, I don't know, maybe mid to late 30s into the run, and I thought I was still feeling all right when I sort of started to get to move again and actually get a few flat spots where you can start running along. And I didn't realize just how shot my quads and calves were until there was a bit where you run through some housing, just on a slowly descending road, and I thought I was working fairly hard, and I looked down on the watch, and I'm sitting on about 6 minute 30 kilometers. And normally in something like that, I would be running along, you just relax and do a 5 minute 35, 15 kilometer, just cruising down this hill. And I thought I was working and doing like a 6 minute 30. And at that point, I'm thinking, this isn't a good sign. I just sort of had no push off the legs, was just more running on momentum, and there was no power coming through. So the glutes and quads and everything, just every time I'd push off the ground, there was just nothing there. But still just kept pushing along. And at that time, I'm looking at the clock, and for cutoff was 8 hours. And I'm looking at going, oh yeah, I've still got plenty of time, it'll be fine. And, just keep knocking out the distance and, chewing away at the kilometers, and we'll get there in the end. But the quads and calves being shot, there's a lot of sections on the track where, because it's a regular walking track, there's a lot of steps and that sort of thing, and they're not regular steps. One might only be a few inches, and the next one might be a foot high. And where you normally approach steps and without thinking about it, just step straight to the top. There's a few times there where I've done that and not lifted my leg high enough, even though I thought I did, and you just kick straight into the step. And when you're running on exhaustion, and that's a bit of a jarring moment when you realise you're just about face planted into another bunch of steps because you can't lift your leg high enough. So pretty much whenever I was running along and come across a section where there was steps, I would just stop and I'll just walk up them, just very casually, very slowly, and just make my way up through the steps, because I just, not when you're feeling good, you just run up and without even thinking about it, but no power in the legs. So err on the side of caution and just walk the steps so I don't face plant. And that, especially too when you're 45k into a run, the last thing you want to do is face plant into something. But the course itself, it goes through so many different types of bushland. There's bits there where it's nice and ferny, and hopefully I have plenty of good footage to go through. I haven't actually had a look at it all yesterday, but I tried to get a bit, and there's a few bits there where the camera decided not to start recording, but that's a shame. But there's others where it has, so I'll show you as much as I can of the course, because there's so many different areas. There's bits where you're just running up a dirt road, and then you're onto a single track and running through ferns or some old style arid, I don't know if you call it arid, like the beach style bushland that you get there. Big grass ferns, and then you go off and it's just like a tussock grass on the side, and you're running across the thing. Bits there where you can also see out over Bushranger Bay and across Cape Shank, and a beautiful coastline. So hopefully there's nice footage there as well. But no, it was a fantastic experience. I ended up doing the whole thing. I haven't actually said it. I did actually make it to the end. So I've done the whole thing in a touch over 7.5 hours, I think it was. So half hour under cutoff. I was super pleased that the weather itself turned out to be quite low. So in some other videos, I'd been training as though the weather was going to be the same as what it had been for basically the last 10 years it's been run. It's always been 30 to 35 degrees. So I was super happy when it was showing that it was only going to be about 18 degrees. I think it ended up getting up to about 25 degrees on the day itself. But it wasn't until later in the afternoon. And at that point, you didn't really notice the climb. Like a lot of time you're in bush like what I'm standing in at the moment, where you're in and out of the shade. There's a few spots where it gets a bit damp, and in those bits, if it was quite warm, it would be quite muggy. And also too, I guess when you're out on the tussock plains, when there's just nothing above, everything is only about a foot tall. There's obviously no shade there. So, but yeah, when the weather dropped down, and sort of when, I guess it played to my favour, where I hadn't been training in the heat because it just hadn't warmed up at home. So that definitely played into my hands and helped me actually get through to the end. In myself, honestly, I don't know how I'd go if it was a 35 degree day. Obviously would have still given it a good shot, but I don't know how much closer to the cutoff time I would have been, or whether I would have even made it. Like I said, I've come in about 25 minutes under cutoff, and it doesn't take much to get rid of that time. And that was something that was also playing on my mind when I was approaching the finish. And, it's good to look at the watch and go, I only have to cover 10k in, I don't know, say the last hour and a half or something. Well, it was probably a little bit more than that, especially at that point. I was doing pretty slow Ks. By then, a 7 or 8 minute K was actually a good K. So it might have been, say, 10K in 2 hours. But from previous experience doing any sort of runs, I know that something like a cramp can take away half an hour from your time without even noticing it. It'll just be cramp, bang, there goes half an hour because you're just walking and, stumbling along. So it doesn't take much to take away that time. So in my mind was just always keep moving, keep pushing forward, run whenever I could and walk when I have to, just to keep chewing that distance out. So no, super stoked with how it's gone. Will I do it again? I don't know. I guess we'll see what's happening next year when it comes around. Definitely interested to see how much further I can push myself. I expected that during the 56Ks there'd be bits there where you start doubting yourself, but I didn't actually really get anything like that. The closest thing I came to doubt was when I realised that even when I thought I was working, I was only running at 6.5 minute Ks. That was the closest I came to doubting myself, when even at that point I was like, well, even at this speed, I'm going to make it to the end. I felt confident all the way through. And it's good too, whenever anyone passed or you pass someone else, all right, so you're feeling all right, everything's going okay, you're going good, and you just keep pushing through like that. So that was really cool to be in that sort of situation where everyone's just egging each other on. So for this week, now it will just be me taking it easy. I don't think I'm going to be doing any running in the next few days, that's for sure. My legs are still quite stiff and sore and not really liking me at the moment. So I'm just sort of shuffling around. Booked in for a massage on Wednesday because I figured by then anything that is going to cramp up or get stiff and be sore will have all settled in by then, so I can get some work done then. But other than that, it's just going to be walking around. There won't be much running happening. Hopefully some late in the week or early the week after, I'll actually start getting some running done. That would be quite good. And I guess I'll probably just reflect on what I've actually just achieved. It sort of kicked in, but hasn't really as well. I was a little bit emotional when I got to the finish line, but that quickly passed. So at this stage, I don't really have another goal penned in yet. Like I said, I started doing these videos to keep me motivated when I started feeling a bit flat when I was training for 2 bays. I've actually really enjoyed doing them, and they have kept me motivated, and hopefully a few other people have watched them as well. But I'm going to keep doing them with whatever goal I pick. At this stage, there's a few runs that I really want to do around Australia, so I guess I'll look at the calendar and see what's around. But looking at something that's sort of a 10 to 12 week training period for me to get ready. I'm already carrying a fair bit of fitness from having been training for this. So whether it be a marathon or an ultra or something, I don't know what it will be at this stage. I'll see what's around. But I'll probably put that out in a video in the next week or so. I'll decide what it is I'm going to aim for and target that. But no, I guess the immediate future for me is just sort of take some time out and let everything recover. I am feeling a little bit stiff and sore and just shuffling around even when walking. So let everything recover, and I guess I'll give this run the respect it deserves and take some time out to let everything heal up. Definitely don't want to be trying to run the next few days, but yeah, I'll spend that time while I'm recovering to work out my next goal, because I do need a goal to keep me running. Otherwise I just shuffle along and cruise along my own pace and not really aim at anything. Whereas if I've got a goal, then I know I need to run harder, I need to push myself, I need to maybe do some more Ks and work that way. So I work that goal out while I'm recovering and give myself a bit of time to at least train for it. Like I said, looking at a 10 to 12 week period, and go from there. So I guess for now that will do for this week. Thanks for watching. Any questions or whatever, just post them below and I'll get to and answer them. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. Keep posts on whatever it is I try and do next. Hopefully it's not something as painful as this one, but we'll see, you never know. Hopefully any training you're doing is going on really well, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.